Hey, welcome back to Diabolic Shrimp, the least professional talk show on the internet. I'm your host, best-selling author Josh Grant and comic creator. And today our special guest is David Allen Edmonds. David Allen Edmonds has this awesome series of personal pronouns and indirect objects. It kind of mixes like the life of like teaching and some of that experience, but also with all this like mystery and action and all this heartfelt stuff. And so we're going to get a chance to dive full on into that. We're going to get a chance to talk to David and see what he brought us for like show and tell and talk a little bit about his time working in television and all these things. So, but a bit about David first. David Allen Edmonds spent most of his working life as a high school German teacher, sehr gut, but wrote 2 educational TV series for the Cleveland PBS affiliate and spent a summer in Hollywood on the writing staff of an ABC Paramount show, Out of the Blue. Teaching remains his first love, and his experiences in the classroom form the setting for his Joe Lair's mysteries, personal pronouns, and indirect objects. Now, he is officially retired from the classroom and working on the audiobook version of Indirect Objects. Future projects include publishing the Faculty Lounge Stories, his collection of short teacher narratives, a science fiction novel or movie, and perhaps a script for the Hallmark Channel. And we're going to dive all into that, but we don't want to leave Herr Dave in the wings for too long here. So let's bring him on. David, welcome to Diabolic Shrimp.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, it is just so great to have you on. You're someone I've read your books for years now. Actually, I read Personal Pronouns a while back, and so it's just so great to get a chance to talk to you, and maybe we can practice our German. I speak.
We'll conjugate some verbs. I think we'll do some verb conjugations.
We'll throw some umlauts in here if you can get it.
Umlaut, yeah. And we'll do some indirect object stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll do grammar. Yeah.
So like let's dive on in though. Like I think the best way to get to know anybody is a little bit of show and tell. So what did you bring us for show and tell?
Well, what I brought you today was a memento of my time in Hollywood.
So okay.
This is a Maltese falcon.
Nice.
From the 1941 movie with Humphrey Bogart and John Huston and
like the Maltese falcon.
And Peter Lorre, who is actually German. Yeah. Peter Lorre was in it too. He was kind of a creepy guy. Anyways, when we took a break from writing on this TV show, and it turns out since here in Hollywood, everything's movie related, there's just a whole store full of props and gimmicks and stuff from movies. So I'd recently seen the movie for like the 17th time, and I picked this up, and he sits above my desk now and text me when I don't do my work.
The falcon watches you like a hawk, and he keeps you on task.
I thought that was low-hanging fruit, Josh. But yeah.
that's my. I have my predator skull. He does the same thing. So he keeps an eye on me and makes sure I'm working hard too. So
I have a Cervantes statue, but he was a real author and a real writer, so I don't think he cares about what I write. This is more my style. I remember at the end of the movie, the Maltese falcon turns out to be a fake. It's not made out of gold. It's made out of like nothing. It's just like sandstone. It's nothing.
And so that one turned out to be a fake too.
It's
that you're
holding.
Yeah.
Or this is the real one. It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
Exactly.
So that's what I brought you.
Yeah, well, that is so cool. So let's dive into your crazy life, because you've had this crazy life of like teaching. Anyone who's a teacher, I used to be a teacher as well, and it's like anyone who's been a teacher has had a crazy life. And then you also dove into TV and doing some of these things, and then into novels. So as a retired teacher, I know you've definitely seen some stuff, right? And so what was one of your strangest experiences as a teacher?
My strangest experience is one of the things I'm most proud of. 43 years in a classroom.
Oh, no, you get a medal. You get more than a Maltese falcon.
Well, it was a winding road, but nobody ever puked in my class.
Oh yes. Okay.
I remember when I was in grade school, kids were throwing up all the time. And I made it through all those years and I never had to clean up vomit. I thought that was great.
That's incredible. Actually, I was like, I only taught for a few years as an elementary teacher, but I swear I was like emitting radiation or something. I would have kids like throw up or like lose teeth all the time. I'm like, are you all right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. See, at high school, I didn't have that stuff. So that was
yeah. Well, I don't know. You'd be surprised. You get all the same stuff in high school. You know, they still lose their teeth in a fight.
Well,
or
they're supposed to act like they're grown up and they're not, but that's okay. Yeah.
So for you, like, so you went from like, or you kind of went from like television into teaching. So let's go back to the television days. So like,
right.
So you ended up like taking that summer and you were working on Out of the Blue. For those of you that don't know, is like kind of like a sister show to Happy Days in a way.
Yes, and Mork and Mindy and all those guys.
Yeah, they were all kind of like like a family of shows in a way.
Yeah.
So like, how did you end up getting into that? What took you that road?
Well, it's first of all, I was getting burned out. It was about 20 years into teaching, and I was looking for something fun to do. My roommate from college, who actually lived down the street from me in Cleveland Heights when we were in high school, he went to Ignatius. I went to a different high school. He was a stand-up comic, and he got offered the part of the lead role in Out of the Blue.
Oh, cool. So
he invited me and another one of our third roommate to go be on the writing staff. So we headed out there we were there about 6 weeks, the end of July, pretty much through August. And
I think it's funny that you're like, I was getting a bit burned out with teaching, so I wanted to go into a no stress job like writing for television.
What did I know? So Jimmy's the star, Jimmy Brogan, he's still around. Dixie Carter was in it the moment she went on to be in Designing Women. And they had this whole thing set up to tie in a Mork and Mindy show to the first version of this show. But there was something happened and a football game went late or something, and they never did the tie-in. So the show started on the wrong foot.
Oh, no.
And then it was on opposite Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color.
Oh, no.
It just got Sunday afternoon. It just got killed. It just got crushed. So I left before the final two editions were done, and it's a good thing I did. My wife was pregnant. I went back to school the end of August, beginning of September. My wife had our child in November, so I had to be real certain that I was going to make money if I was going to stay there and do that, because I couldn't leave her home. We couldn't afford to move out to California. So
yeah, talk about just a year of like just change and transition in your life. And so So when the show ended, what did you do? You just you went back into teaching, right?
I got a T-shirt that said "Out of the Blue," and on the back it said "Out of a Job." That's Jimmy's joke. That's not mine. I came back in time to start the school year, and I thought that would give me some fame, and nobody cared. So I went back and taught some more, and then it was not long after that I started writing short stories.
Yeah, well, you're famous to me, Dave. It's like honestly, honestly, for those of you that that haven't read his work, all the stuff is actually down there in the description. So I linked his website and his book.
Okay,
so check them out, because they really are like this great blend of things. And so like it's a blend of like kind of the teaching world, a blend of like mystery, a blend of like a little bit kind of like action, and it's really also like the depth is what I loved about like Dave, like if you haven't read any of his stuff, it's like he has a great blend of like humor meets like reality meets like depth. And so definitely check those out. So now you want to like kind of go into like writing like a Hallmark, and you even mentioned perhaps like a sci-fi kind of movie.
Yeah.
So what would that look like?
I don't know. I started the easy way. I started writing short stories about teaching. And they're first person narratives, and some of them are on my website for free. So there's no vomit in any of them. There are bodily fluids, but I don't think
can't break David's record. There's no vomit in his classroom.
Can't do that. And those I thought got too preachy. They got too the whole world hates teachers and nobody understands what's going on and woe is me. And I just so I decided when I retired,
a manual about teaching. I got you.
Oh God, no. Who would read that?
Yeah.
So it got to be 30 years in, and I retired the first time, and I went home and took some of those short stories and turn them into novels. I tried to write them as novels and sell them, but I was so stupid at the beginning that I thought when I typed the end, it was done. So I'd write a draft, send it off, and they'd say, "This sucks." So he sent it back, and instead of fixing it, I was so arrogant and stupid at the time that I just wrote a new one. So so I must have had 6 or 7 novels. So by the time I retired, I pulled these novels out and said, I've grown up a little bit. I said, maybe I better rewrite these. So Personal Pronouns I originally wrote like 10 years before I published it. I got it out. And when I retired, I went over it and rewrote it and made it something that was a whole lot better. Then the second one followed on the steps of that one. That one was brand new. But my point is, I thought writing was just what you did and then you were done. But it's all rewrite. It's all about rewriting. So when I went back and made them better, now I got something.
Yeah.
Now
I was gonna say I connect with you on that. I like when I wrote my first book ever. I wrote it back in college, and it'll never see the light of day. It's sitting in a box over there.
Yeah.
It's like it's coffin. But I sent it off to agents at the time. I never even proofread it. I never like the second I was like the second it was done, I was like I don't even need to go back and like reread or anything.
I'm a teacher. I know about grammar. I teach grammar. You can't tell me about bad sentences. Come on. Yeah. I got tons of those rejection letters. And I was mostly stunned. Are you kidding me? How could they not love it? So I got over that. Okay, so after that, then I went back to teaching again. I taught another 7 years, and then I retired the second time. And now I'm thinking, well, maybe what I should do is try something different. So I've written these 2 kind of noir mysteries, and I'm sure I'll come back and do a third one. But I'm thinking about doing a Hallmark movie, like you said, which is about as different as you can think of. And I'm finding
I'd like to see a noir Hallmark movie, actually.
No, you wouldn't, because it would never be on.
So confusing.
You can't do noir. So, but see, I thought I was so cute. I was taught to write from what I knew, from my experiences. So I wrote about teaching. But I inserted myself into it too much. So I realize now that kind of stifled me, stuck me into a box where I had to almost justify my writing by my own career, which they shouldn't meld. They shouldn't be exactly the same. So now the good thing is in the Hallmark movie, I'm not personally invested in there. I'm not one of the characters. I don't want to be one of the characters. I can use my experiences as experiences, not as like a template. So
that's I was like, now I have to go back and like in my own writing, like strike out the YouTube host out of all my my writing. Oh man, I put a YouTube host in this for some reason.
So the guy.
Oh yeah, get it up there by the way. Yeah, get up Indirect, drop it, show it off for everyone.
Okay, so the lead character in here is a German teacher, I was. I mean, that's it was good because I knew exactly how he should feel, how he should talk, how it smelled in a school. I know that. I had a cold. You could too, because you taught. And I thought that'll be my audience. But as good as that was, as good as the idea that was, it limited me. So I think it's time to take off the blinders and try something new.
All right. That's exciting. I mean, yeah, and we'll dive actually a little bit more into that in just a second. So, but let's go back to like, so you were kind of touching on it just now, like how has being an educator like influenced your writing? And let's go the reverse too. Like how has writing kind of influenced you as an educator?
Yeah. Okay. So I taught for 30 years, was really burned out. There was a buyout, so I made some money to quit, but I was done. I'd been in the same building for 29 years and I was fine, but constant wrangling with the administration and unions and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I was just fried. At one stage I found my hands actually wrapped around a kid's throat. Some kid had given me some lip on hall duty or cafeteria duty. And the kid ended up going to prison for something else. So he actually was a bad dude. But the point is, I shouldn't have been strangling anybody. That's crazy. So a year later, I said, I'm burned out. I can't do this anymore. So I went home, and the first batch of writing, when I wrote all those novels, that was like therapy. I just got everything out. I just made fun of not being able to sell them. But the good thing was me putting my thoughts down on writing actually got me out of that miserable headspace I was in from all the stress.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now, people, you understand, but if you didn't give teachers summer vacation, the suicide rate would go up exponentially. I mean, people get.
I think it's more like the murder rate. It's like we teachers would go bonkers.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it sounds like that's for me a day in kindergarten is like 30 years of teaching. I'm like the kindergarten cop, like sit down, get out your pencils.
It's not the tumor.
Yeah, but so like, well, so let's shift over into your book. Actually, let's actually like focus on it. So indirect objects is the second in the series, and so I'll share with you the first lines, and this is something I do with every book. You know, I always like pick out the first lines, and I always add like, and then the murders began, because it makes it so much more dramatic. Now your book actually is like a kind of a mystery, and it does have some of that. So like, so let's dive in a bit though. Like, here's the first lines of indirect objects. With a minimum of cursing and finger pointing, 4 men managed to find their way through the warren of twisting streets that comprised the Deer Woods Creek development. Philia poked the young man driving the Corolla, and he pulled into a dark space between the feeble decorative streetlights. He set his binoculars against his face and peered at the house across the street. Now we sit and wait, and then the murders began. It kind of works.
Yeah, and then a few minutes after that, the house blows up.
I was gonna say it kind of works. So let's talk about indirect objects and personal pronouns, since that's the first in the series. Like, tell us a little bit about indirect objects.
All right, indirect objects is plays on the grammar nerd in me. So, and which fits into the chalk and the blackboard cover. Okay. Hey, it's a school book, okay? All right, so make sure everybody knows that. Okay, indirect objects means to me that the bad guys in charge are working under the surface, saying one thing and doing completely other things. In other words, their objects are indirect. That's not the grammatical meaning, but I put that in the front page of the book. But I thought that fit. The first book, Personal Pronouns, that represented to me another grammatical thing, which I like. That was about a prostitution ring. And in my mind, a pronoun like she or her represents any female. And that's the way they treated the women in the book, as anybody's anybody. It doesn't matter who you are, you're a commodity.
Interesting. Yeah. So the next one, the third one's going to be like I before E, except after C, right?
Except it doesn't
you have to find some deep meaning or something.
No. In German, it is when two vowels go walking, the second one does the talking.
And mostly just say English words in the back of your throat, and then you'll get the German one.
Right. Okay. All right. So in here, the bad guys are doing things like stealing money from the state tests. They're doing that. They're trying to hold on to power in the midst of the opioid epidemic, which is, since this is set in a middle-class suburb, drugs was always an issue. Opportunity meets kids with a lot of free time, meets parents with money. So the drug deal is a big deal, and taking pills was part of my experience. So I thought that ought to be the thing. So when the opioid crisis hits this town, how do they react? Well, the bad guys want to make money on it.
Of course, yeah. So you're going to take advantage.
And since they don't care about the kids, really, the kids die, and they don't really care. So that whole thing, like the prostitution ring, tells what I'm trying to pitch is the people in charge, A, don't know what's going on, and B, don't really care about the kids. And the people that care about the kids were like you and me in the classroom, and we lived and died with them. So
in the front lines there. So tell us about just a couple of your main characters in your book.
Okay, the lead character is Joe Lehrer. And you know from your study, the Lehrer means teacher.
Yep.
So it was Joe Teacher, which I thought.
I always smiled at that. I always thought that was a nice touch, honestly.
Yeah. You and I thought that was really funny. Nobody else can pronounce it, and it was a lot funnier 20 years ago when he showed up as a character in my short stories. Now he kind of, as I said, kind of a limit. But anyways, Joe is idealistic. He's about your age-ish, if I'm guessing how old you are. He's been in teaching for a dozen years, and he's starting to find out that it's a lot harder than he thought. In the first book, his wife dies. It turns out it was a murder, and he gets thrust into having to solve that, and he didn't want to, so he's grieving that. In the second book, he's trying to put any kind of semblance of love life back together because his wife is gone. He still feels guilty about that. He's raised Catholic, and one of his best friends is a local priest. And I wanted to put a priest character in the book that that acted as a character instead of a bastion of good and evil. He actually, in the first book, in the whole first chapter, the priest is acting like a counselor. You don't even know he's a priest, because I wanted to actually be a human being. Because most every time, can I go on a short rant?
Yeah, by all means.
Most every time, if a priest shows up in a book, you got to have sex in there involved, because that's the only issue he's got as a priest, is why he doesn't have a wife. I just want to stay away from that and have him be a character on his own. I hope I did that.
Yeah, well, and that is actually one of the things I loved about your books, and people can read my reviews, but on it, but like it's you have this depth of character, and that's what I loved about yours. Like you said, you built this like humanity around them. It's not just like it's not just kind of what you're going at. Like, it's not just a role. It's not just the priest or the teacher. It's like they have these lives and these grief and this like struggle and this natural interaction. That's what I loved about it.
So if you read a lot of detective fiction, somebody has got to be the badass. Somebody has to know how the gun works, how the bomb works, and all that kind of technical stuff.
That's me. That's me on this show.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah,
I'm gonna get my eye patch out.
Can you hear me now? So in the good fiction, it's not the main character, because that gives him too many hats to wear. But then he has to have a friend that is just a complete near criminal himself to get all that cool criminal stuff in there, so he can blow up the cars and all that stuff. But my characters, I thought that was wrong. They're just normal guys. They don't know how to use a gun, really. So I thought that gave them some depth and made them more real life. The same reason I write so much dialogue, because I don't want to talk about it. I want to actually be in there with them.
Yeah, and you brought in that like just noir element like really well. And so how close to the real deal is your book? Like, how close to real life would you say it is?
well, the short stories, when I started writing the short stories, I actually had a list of real names of people and the names I'm going to call them. Okay.
So they're all like directly modeled.
Well, they were, but that was 30 years ago. Okay. And they've changed. Joe was obviously me, but the more I write, the less he is.
Yeah.
Bob was a good friend of mine, but Bob moved away. I haven't seen Bob in 20 years. So, and he has changed a little bit. Lexan is completely new. The other teachers, the French teacher and the Spanish teacher are modeled on gals I taught with, and I love them both. And there was always a thing about which language was the better language, so we always had that little ridiculous competition going on.
Wingdings is always the best language.
Yeah. The evil superintendent was modeled on a character. The business manager was modeled on a former principal of mine, a guy I legitimately didn't get along with. Some of the other characters, the minor characters stayed more who they really were. The major characters have morphed and developed.
Yeah, well, that's I always think that's just so great when someone can take like that reality aspect. I always joke with people, because people are always like, "Hey, put me in one of your books," and I'm like, no. I never write anybody into one of my books, because I just don't feel like I have the skill to actually really capture them. But for some reason, if I try to put somebody in my book or model after someone real, they end up dying. So it's like, I don't want them to be like so offended,
What are you trying to say, Josh?
Yeah, well, don't worry, Dave. I got your number. You're coming up here. So
the Spanish teacher, from the book, has her hair done the same place where the gal cuts my hair. And her quote was, "Apparently, Edmonds put me in his book." And that's how she said it, and that's the way I wrote her character. So we have not talked face to face since, so I don't know if she's happy or not.
I was gonna say, yeah, especially the hair cutting place too. I was like, I'd be worried about putting them in. It's like the revenge cut.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, kill me off in your book. I'm gonna snip it.
Well, there's the reason I'm wearing a cap.
Yeah. So who for you personally, and maybe this is gonna cause some fights since they're all modeled after real people. Like, who is your favorite character in the series?
Well, Bob was, because Bob was one of the favorite guys I taught with. His job is to be the comic relief and say the stupid, funny stuff. I tried to give him a better role in the second book, where he actually plays a part in bringing down the bad guys. I felt in the first book, all I did was have him say the yuck yuck lines. But he was so good at that in real life that I had to put him in, and I love the guy. I wish he hadn't moved away.
Yeah, that's your job. My job on here is to be the bad arse. Your job is to say the comedy. You're the comedy relief here.
I'm the comedy relief.
So what was the most challenging in this series for you to write then? Like, why was that challenging?
The challenge was I wrote Indirect Objects. I thought I was done with Indirect Objects a year and a half before it came out, and my editor was having trouble getting around to it. He has a high stress job. He had some changes in his life, and we just didn't hit it off right.
As
a matter of fact, my editor is a former student of mine. He went off and got a fine arts degree in English. So he's brilliant, and he really helped my writing if I ever would listen to him. The good news was he works cheap. The bad news is I'm still older than he is, and I was his teacher. If he tells me to do something and I don't want to do it,
yeah,
I win. And I think I won too much. As a matter of fact, the criticisms he had in this book, I have realized while writing the Hallmark thing, I finally figured out what he meant. Okay. I finally got it about releasing my character and writing a little more narration and a little less dialogue. And it's like freed me up now that I finally listened to him for gosh sakes.
Yeah.
So anyways, this book was rewritten way more than the other one, because waiting for him to get back to me, and the COVID thing was going on, and my wife had her knee fixed, and we had all kinds of stuff going on. So the process was slow. So that was frustrating.
Yeah. So your book kind of got 2020'd, right? It's kind of like the perfect storm, right?
well, that was So when do I bring it out? I bring it out in September, thinking the thing's going to be over, and we're not over.
Yeah.
So don't ask me about sales. I'm not talking about it.
Yeah.
But hey, you people listening out there, look at the website. You can buy it.
Yeah. It's down there in the description, and we're going to plulg it as much as we can. We always I love to go for shameless self promotion on here. So please hold it up as much as you can, along with the Maltese. Like, get the Maltese Falcon next to it. It makes it more dramatic.
He's going to peck your eyes out if you don't buy it. Okay.
So I need to get one of those. I'll get the Predator to advertise my book. So you're diving into like something new, right? And diving into Hallmark stuff. So and that's great. Like, it's great to challenge ourselves, right? As writers. That's what I did when I went into comics. I didn't know anything about comics, but I was like, this has to be a comic. And I had so much fun that I'm actually having a hard time going back.
Are you doing the artwork too?
No, I wish I was that talented. I draw a little, I kind of storyboarded. I draw little stick figures, and I do all the description and all that. It's a whole different style of writing, but it's a lot of fun. So but for you, you're challenging yourself in a new way, and you kind of talked about the struggles with editing. So what's one great piece of walk away writing advice for an aspiring author out there? Because we actually have a decent amount of our audience are current or aspiring authors that are looking for new advice.
All right. I got a couple. Number one, put your butt in the chair.
Yeah.
Number two, get off your back.
Okay.
Hold the criticism until what you've got on paper, not in your head, what you've got on paper is big enough to take the criticism.
Okay.
But the process is such that it changes as you write it. If you criticize it too early, you'll change its path. And since you don't know the path, your changes are invalid. So wait till it's big enough. to stand up until you can see what you really said. There's a disconnect between what you think you wrote and what you wrote. And until you can sit back and see that, you can't criticize it.
It's pretty much always my there's always a disconnect with me. I was like, I think this is brilliant, and it's always like, one star.
Well, it goes both ways. It's either to this or to that. And the point is, you can't really see it. So on a typical writing day, I wrote, what did I write today? I wrote 796 words today.
Yes.
And I won't look at those until tomorrow. That's the first thing I'll do tomorrow. And then rereading that, well, the other day I reread it and said the ending's wrong. So my writing for that was rewriting the last third of the previous chapter. So tomorrow I'll read that. And what it should do is either say, okay, I did what I thought I was going to do, go back to my outline and say, what's next? Excellent. And I know there's holes in it. I know there's flaws in it. And I know I'll fix it, but I'll fix it when the time's right. Because too much criticism early, what's the answer? Screw it, I'm done. I'm not going to write. I'll stop doing it. Because it's a lot easier than criticizing myself to walk the heck away and have a beer.
So I think it's better just to drink while you're writing. So it's I write.
I understand. Some people in my age group actually did that a lot. I'm not going there. All right.
Yeah, me neither. What going forward, you're already wanting to like dive into a whole new thing, like writing like a Hallmark type story, which is awesome. So what would be like, I always love to ask this of like everyone that comes on the show, but what would be an existing franchise that you'd love to write a story in, whether it's a movie or a game or a novel series or something, in an existing franchise? What would be one that you would love to write a story in if they just called you up right now?
Well, I was originally influenced by Robert B. Parker, the Spencer books, Spencer for Hire.
Uh-huh.
And Spencer was the way those books read, almost all dialogue, which I think planted that seed in me. Very sparse, economical. I would like to do that because he's really got a voice. I could do that.
Awesome. Okay.
Current stuff, the mysteries I read are too much like CSI, and they got too much technical stuff, which really doesn't interest me.
Uh-huh.
I just finished Dune for the second time.
Oh, really? I was like, you get a medal for that. Every time I try and get through Dune, it's like too confusing for me.
Well, it's the second book that I never read the whole second book, and I'm bogged down in the second book this time too.
Yeah.
But Josh, I got my two kids to read Dune, and they think, "Oh, Dad, this is really cool." So I said, "Yeah, I told you it was cool 30 years ago. Why didn't you read it then?" But okay, but that's good. Yeah, I love that book.
I might have to wait for the movie, and we'll just kind of see if that helps.
There's good movies coming out.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like the Dune one is coming, so I'm like, I might just have to wait and see that as like the cliff notes, so I can actually understand it.
Time out. Okay, so you got the Sandworms coming up, right?
Yeah.
Sandworms. Okay, I watched the first edition of Mandalorian in the second chapter.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it? Are you up to date?
Oh yeah, I am. Spoiler alert for anyone watching. So there you go.
That looks a hell of a lot like a sandworm coming up in there.
It didn't look like a crate dragon, so
yeah, okay, whatever that is. Yeah.
You're talking to like a major star. I don't have it up yet. I'm gonna have like it's over here somewhere. there we go, that direction. Okay. It's like I'm gonna have I have a lightsaber that I'm gonna set up.
Well, I was not happy with that.
Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled with the first episode of Mando either. Okay. But, so all right, so. And okay. I love how you're talking about, so it's like a little too technical for the detective stuff, and that's you kind of go back to more like you said, the noir. I loved some of that classic like noir kind of beat him up a little bit, but like detective thing, but also like finding the clues and stuff.
I like that scene a lot. I like that. That one made sense to me. And to tell you what, Josh, I've not changed more than 3 words in that whole scene since I wrote it the first time. It's funny. Sometimes they just come out and they hit. Other times you rewrite them 72 times before you get them right. I have no idea why that happens.
Yeah, it's just like, and I guess I'll ask your opinion on this before we dive in and get to read a little bit of your novel for people. But like, do you feel like the more you struggle with a piece, the better, or do you feel like it's like the ones you got off like the first time are better?
Well, they're better because they're easier.
Yeah.
I just wish I knew what the heck I did
Yeah.
when it came out perfect the first time. When I finally figure out what's wrong, that's the first problem. I know it's wrong, but I don't know what it is. Once I figure out that and then fix it, I get a real kick out of that. That really feels like I accomplished something that day.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of my entire. I wrote a young adult sci-fi book that's set in like a robot future, but it's like all about emotions. But like that one was like a hard one to write, just because like I couldn't figure out what was wrong, kind of like what you're saying. And I'm not. That's one. Honestly, I'm not sure if I ever quite figured it out, but I'm happy with it. But I really struggled with.
When's the last time you read it?
So I actually the last time I read it was just before I published. So it's like, I thought about going back and reading it recently just to see how far my writing's come or something. I think my writing's gone downhill, honestly.
Well, I said that's what I was saying before. You're letting the time pass. You change. The words allegedly don't change, but it appears that they do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what I was saying. I was like, I might go back and check it out before I write the sequel. So let's look at your sequel though, Indirect Objects. And so we have a scene here that we get to read together, if you'd like. And so we can actually jump back and forth as characters and like set the scene for our audience. Like, what's going on?
All right, there are three characters in the scene. Alfred is the former crime boss of Stratford. He left at the end of the first book and moved with his henchmen and his wife to Naples, Naples, Florida. His wife's name is Ursula. Her nickname is Uschi, which I didn't explain clearly enough, so nobody knows who Uschi is. But that's a German nickname for Ursula. Anyways, the third character is Carl. He may be my favorite character in the whole series. He is the henchman. He is the enforcer, but he's got a sense of humor, a brain, and an imagination, and a vocabulary, and an arrogance such that nothing bothers him. Well, he's bothered now because they have left Stratford in the hands of Alfred's sister, and she is now the mayor of Stratford, and she's screwing it up. So he's an unhappy man. He wants to go back there and smack her around.
Okay. All right. So there.
Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be?
So let's go. As we, I'll go with, since Carl's your favorite, you can be Carl.
Okay, and you be Uschi then.
And then I'll be Uschi.
Okay.
And then, I thought Alfred was in here, but maybe.
No, Alfred's in there too. We'll figure out who Alfred is when we get there.
Yeah, when we get there, I'll narrate for us. So okay. I'll be our narrator, and I'll be Uschi.
Okay.
And you be Carl.
I get to start.
So,
I don't want to hurt him, Uschi. You know I'd never do that.
If you go stomping out of here, Carl, in the mood you're in, he will be hurt, she said. Alfred will definitely be hurt.
He shouldn't be. It's not his fault.
The big white-haired man said.
He didn't do anything wrong.
It's his sister, you big fool. He loves her like a daughter. Carl stepped to the screen of the lanai, and looked at the boat bobbing in the canal at the end of the dock.
She's ruining everything we did.
He gave it to her, Carl. It's hers to...
Stratford is not hers to ruin. No, I put too much work into it.
Alfred came out of the kitchen carrying a tray with drinks. The sun is past the yard arm, my friends. No more business talk. He skirted the diving board end of the pool and held the tray in front of his wife. My dear, you're old-fashioned. He took the drink and he set the tray down. He picked up the remaining two drinks, but when he saw the look on Carl's face, he returned them to the tray. We are not having this conversation again. Carl took a slow breath and settled his weight on the balls of his feet. He loved the man, but he didn't know where this was going or how it would play out.
Did you hear what she did?
She settled the teacher contract. No sweat, no conflict. Pretty good work, if you ask me. Alfie retrieved his Tom Collins and took a sip. A little tart. Carl looked down at his drink on the tray, Uschi's bare knee next to it. Aside from giving them way too much money,
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oops.
Sorry. Aside from giving them way too much money, she signed a 3-year deal. We always did 2 years.
Things change. Details changed. No biggie, big man. He moved to clink his glass, but saw that Carl hadn't picked up his. Come on, Carl.
Boss, she made the deal outside of the process. That's not legally binding. That's subverting the law.
He grabbed the beer and took a long swallow. After all the shit we've pulled, you're having a hissy fit about legality? Alfie looked at his wife and they both laughed. Neither saw the look in Carl's eyes. When they stopped laughing, Carl said,
There's a system, Alfie. You and I set up the system. Everybody knew what was expected. We only dealt with someone when they deserved it, like she should do with Lara. That's what we would have done.
Carl, damn it, I'm getting fed up with with this all the time.
I'm getting fed up with looking like a fool.
Carl jammed a finger in the other man's face.
You should be too.
Alfred set his glass down. We're not looking like fools because we're not there. We're not involved.
Be that as it may.
Carl struggled to control his breathing.
There's no way in hell that you would leave yourself open to blackmail. Neither of us would.
Alfred looked to Ushi. She shrugged. Now she's letting two gangs fight. Oh, sorry, it's you again. I'm sorry, David.
That's right. Now she's letting two gangs fight a turf war in Stratford. All she's got to do is pick one and get rid of the other. It's not that hard.
I trained you, and you're explaining this to me?
If you're not going to take care of it, I will.
Carl said. You work for me, Carl. I give the orders. Carl grabbed his crotch.
Yeah, I got your orders right here. Fuck you.
He hurled his bottle into the pool and strode out of the lanai. So, dun dun dun. And then the murders began.
But what I like about Carl is he's upset that the system is wrong. The organization is wrong. He doesn't care if anybody lives or dies.
Yeah.
but the organization's got to be right because that's the way they set it up.
Yeah.
He's an organized man. When he gets off the plane in Cleveland, he's mad about the way people drive on the interstate. You know, they're not in the right lanes. They're passing him on the wrong side. That's the kind of stuff that bothers him. Meanwhile, he's setting bombs and stuff.
Yeah, that's something I always liked about Carl too. Is just like he's kind of like your OCD hitman in a way, and so it's so.
Oh, wait. Here, go back to the middle of it where he says he picks up the Tom Collins and takes a drink. And what does he say? A little tart.
So yes, a little.
Now, is that a comment on his sister?
So
she's acting like a tart.
Yeah.
I go back to the prostitution thing. I don't know. Symbolism, Josh.
Yep. It's indirect objects. No,
it's an indirect object.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, like Dave, like we want to support you. I mean, you're always a very supportive person as well. And so like how, like, I know, and I mentioned it to our audience several times, just down in the description, we have David's books, we have his website. So go check them out. Hopefully we'll have a Hallmark movie soon. That'd be exciting. Dave, how else can people support you?
Well, I think the first thing to do is go to the website and read a couple of the free short stories. Then get an idea of kind of how I write. Those are narrated. They're first of all, they're free. I'm not asking for any money. That'll come later. But that'll give you an idea sort of how I look at things. Joe Lehrer is the character in the short stories, but he's rarely named. It's their first person observations about what's going on. Little vignettes that I knew. If any of that appeals to you, try one of the books. They're available on Amazon. I'd say they're available at your local bookstore, but they're not. So at the moment, unless you live in my hometown of Medina, Ohio, you can only get them online. So hopefully in the spring, you'll be able to see me in person someplace.
Awesome. Okay. So Dave, like hold up indirect objects one more time. Maybe hold up that Maltese Falcon that have them stare everyone down for a second so they can see it. So I'm testing your dexterity here. So.
Yeah. Just looking in the mirror backwards. Ow, 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 ow.
So Dave, like it was fantastic having you on the show.
Well, Josh, I appreciate it. I didn't know exactly how this was going to work. The time has flown. Look what time it is already. I really appreciate it. You've supported me. And I thank you for everything you've done for me and for other authors too. That's very important for us.
All right. Well, thank you again for being on, and hopefully down the road, I'm eventually going to be doing a check-in section. So hopefully we'll get you back on and kind of check in with you a few months down the road and see what you're up to. So, well, Dave, thank you very much. Well, That was David Allen Edmonds. Again, all of his stuff is down there in the description. If you want to support this channel or Diabolic Shrimp in general, which is the website that this is connected to, you're welcome to check out my books down there. You're welcome to subscribe to this channel. A percentage of the money that I make from this goes towards universally good things like childhood disease research, ocean exploration, and just breaking the poverty cycle. So we appreciate you being here. This has been another episode of Diabolic Shrimp. Have a good night.